We are live on Proline TV for this Friday, the 16th of January, 2026, as we talk some Dallas Cowboys. That's right, the Dallas Cowboys, unfortunately, once again, are a topic of conversation regarding the offseason as we go into the divisional round of the playoffs, because that's not where they'd like to be. But such is life, I guess, as a Dallas Cowboys fan. RJ Ochoa is one of them. It covers the Cowboys for Blogging the Boys. You can find out all about the Cowboys and RJ links in the description of this video. RJ, thanks for doing this as always.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me, Greg. Happy divisional round, the round that has cursed the Cowboys for the last 30 years now.
Well, I guess they don't have to curse you now. There's nothing to curse. So, yeah. Anyway, hey, I know how I feel. It's actually worse on my end. So you guys have it good. Okay, so the Cowboy season didn't go as hoped or planned for most Cowboy fans, but some Cowboy fans probably thought, yeah, this is about what we expected, especially after the trade for Micah Parsons. The little bit of a jolt there as soon as they acquired Quinnen Williams, but it just didn't last, and the Cowboys are ready to start all over again for 2026. So let's first start talking about the coaching situation, RJ, because that's really what is taking precedent more than anything, because the Cowboys have got to get this defensive side of the ball fixed, because it looks like the offensive side is just fine, especially with Brian Schottenheimer's first year as head coach. Seems like that side of the ball is not the problem. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they can get that defensive side of the equation fixed. Maybe they'll have something next year.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with that. I logically agree with that. I think if we we do have nothing but time now in idle hands. My kind of new take is that I think it would be irresponsible to just assume that the offense will be fine, right, and that there won't be any kind of regression to the mean there. Just because, right? I mean, that's the way it goes. Is these teams, they say, oh, okay, we don't have to do anything there, don't have to touch anything, don't have to whatever, and just got to fix the defense, and then all of a sudden you're losing games, 13-10.
Yeah.
But that being said, even offensively, they do still have to figure something out with George Pickens, which is something that was completely predictable, to be fair to them. I suppose, this problem was 100% avoidable. But yeah, I do agree that obviously the general, high level of attention is on the defensive side of the ball.
All right. So any news? There's a list of coaches who have already been interviewed. Is there a front runner? What's the latest?
I don't think so right now. I think that there are fan favorites, is maybe the best way to put it. But there's no tea leaves that have suggested that one guy is the favorite, which is refreshing, to be honest. And I want to be very clear here. I'm about to give the Cowboys props, but these are like basic props. Like these are clearing a low bar, type thing. Like this is a good job putting pants on in the morning type of props. But still, I mean, relative to expectation, they are props. They have casted a wide net, a wide search, and also a young search. The Dallas Morning News' Joe Hoyt, good colleague of mine, noted the average age is about 42 years old of the people they're looking. And not to be an ageist in any way, but the last time they were looking for a defensive coordinator while having a head coach in place was 2 years ago when they went at Mike McCarthy's lame duck season, and they hired a 67-year-old Mike Zimmer who'd been out of the NFL. Their only other candidates who they were seriously interested in were Rex Ryan and Ron Rivera, who were also longer in the tooth. Last year, they hired Matt Eberflus, who, beyond the fact, was a family friend, is 55 years old, present day. So he's obviously a year younger. And so my point there is they are zigging where they have zagged a lot. And again, wow, good job doing the basic functions of your job. But these are things that they have avoided for the better part of 2 years. And so in that sense, it does feel like they're no longer at least heading 180 degrees due south. It might be 179, 181. Not even sure which direction they're turning, but they are nevertheless, they have turned ever so slightly.
Okay. You said that there are a couple of candidates that the fan base seems to be siding with. Who are they?
I think that Jim Leonhard of the Denver Broncos is kind of the top of mind name for everyone. And the verbiage that seems to have stuck the most is during the Cowboys season-ending press conference. Brian Schottenheimer said that they would be looking for a teacher. That was kind of the terminology that he really just kind of emphasized over and over again. And so people really like what Jim could offer. Excuse me, been fighting this virus for about 3 weeks now, so it's been incredibly annoying. But he seems to be the one that most people have gravitated towards. There is this this forbidden fruit nature to Jeff Ulbrich. I don't know if you saw this, but the Cowboys did request to interview him. This was after the Falcons had fired Raheem Morris, and they're obviously in the middle of their own remodel. But the Falcons technically hold Jeff's rights, and so they denied the Cowboys permission to interview him because it would be a lateral move. So there is, I think, a natural, you told me not to do it, so I want to do it nature from fans with regards to him. If he were to come available, but those are the kind of clubhouse leaders, so to speak, right now.
All right. Yeah, Leonard's interesting, of course. Also, the Jets are looking for one, and he's got a background with the Jets, and I know Jet fans are interested in Jim Leonard too. So you get the feeling that Jim Leonard will be a defensive coordinator again in the NFL this season somewhere. Okay, is there someone that you favor?
Initially I favored Brian Flores, and just because he felt like the biggest possible swing you could take. But it's funny you asked that, because when I said that in different things I did, I said I'm not holding back from offering my favorite. It's just it doesn't practically feel like a favorite. When you say your favorite, it's someone that you could realistically land. It would be like, I know you're a Jets fan. It would be like you saying, well, I hope the Jets draft Fernando Mendoza. Like, that's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
So there's a measured level of practicality. So, acknowledging that Brian Flores is likely going to get a head coaching opportunity from the still 8 vacancies. I think that you have to naturally kind of cross him off your list. You have to naturally cross Jim Schwartz off your list. So once you get down to the viable options, I think that Jim Leonard is the name that makes the most sense. And he checks the boxes that I want them to ultimately check. And in that respect, I really don't care who they hire. That's the point we're at. That's where the bar is on the ground. I want somebody young. I want somebody that has no connection or affiliation to the organization. And I want somebody who is I know I already said young, but hip to modern trends.
Sure.
Another thing that they've explored Vic Fangio's tree. That they've made some ventures into Eagles land. And that's something, if an alien landed here and we had to explain this process to them, they would say, well, why wouldn't you just go hire the guys who work for the really good teams? Like, why wouldn't you just go hire the dudes who do this really well already? And the Cowboys, quite frankly, never do that. So in that respect, as long as they're in the middle of this Venn diagram, I'm going to have a hard time criticizing it, is maybe the best way to put it.
Okay. It's funny when I look at some of these head coaching candidates, or like when I looked at the Cowboys candidates for defensive coordinator, and saw that Zachary Orr was being had received an interview. It's like some of them just don't even make any sense. It's like, look, Zachary Orr should have been fired a year ago. The guy does no right being a defense coordinator right now. He is in over his head. Every Raven fan knows it. How in the world would he be doing another interview? So it's not to get the job. That's for another reason. Maybe it's just for a favor or whatever the case. And again, even the head coaching position, sometimes you take a look at some of the candidates out there and you're like, really? I mean, there's no way you're hiring that guy. Why are you interviewing? Why are you wasting everybody's time interviewing this guy? I don't know. It just drives you crazy sometimes.
No, I get it. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of instances it's the teams are Rooney Rule compliant. I think that's pretty obvious to see. And you never want to outright accuse anybody of that. But when the Cowboys hired Mike McCarthy, this was now 6 years ago, and 2 head coaching searches ago, they interviewed 2 people. And the Rooney Rule has obviously even changed after that, but they interviewed Mike McCarthy and Marvin Lewis. And it was a matter of, what are you doing interviewing Marvin Lewis? Like, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Different thing, but to your point, what are the Tennessee Titans doing interviewing Jason Garrett? Like, is this a favor to Garrett's agent? Is it a favor to NBC? Who's ultimately interested in this happening here? Because it can't possibly be you to hire this actual person.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't want to give anybody heart attacks, that's for sure, because that's what some fans might get if they believe some of these names that are on the list. But the Cowboys, I'm sure, will hire someone in due time. And when they do, it's not just about hiring a coordinator. It's about fixing the defense in general. So we're going to get into that. Matter of fact, let's take a look so I tell you what, let's start with free agency because let me pop up the current free agent crop here for the Cowboys because I do see considerable a number of names on the defensive side. Maybe even more so than the offensive, but guys that I don't know. Some of them, I mean, Kenneth Murray, this guy just doesn't seem to fit anywhere on any team. But was he a complete washout? Is there no hope, or did he do anything good? Because he's like the youngest player on this list that had significant playing time.
Yeah, I would say that there would be revolt in the streets if they brought him back.
Okay.
I liked the idea of they acquired him by way of trade. For anyone who's unaware, and I mean they threw one of their comp picks at the Titans to get him actually, and I love that type of trade. I love the former first round pick, the cast off. Get him for some coins he found in the couch cushion, and maybe he refines that form.
You never know.
That did not happen here.
I mean, look at the Patriots. They got that. What's that guy that they have? Not a first round pick. I think he's like a second round pick. He was with Jacksonville, did nothing. I can't remember his name. And he got him for like $1.5 million or something. And he's having a great season. Finally, after like 8 seasons, he's actually broke out and did something.
Yeah, I mean, even the Cowboys, the different circumstances, they've traded for Robert Quinn in the past, had a great season for them, and they threw like a 6th-round pick at Miami to get him at the time. So I agreed with the trade in logic and theory. It did not work out. To answer your question, as far as players on this list, George Pickens certainly leads the conversation. Represented by the same agency who represents Micah Parsons, and that complicates matters for obvious reasons. Other than George, I think. If you told me Javonte Williams was a priority, I wouldn't fight you, but I also would be okay if they wanted to spin the wheel and get a different free agent running back. I think they proved last year that they're able to be trusted in that capacity. They do still have both Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa coming back for their second season. So the room feels solid there. There are a lot of people who really want them to bring back Clowney. And I would offer that Clowney kind of worries me from the perspective of he was not even on the team until like week 3. And he feeds their idea that they don't have to be active in free agency in March and April, or even when training camp starts. They could just find these dudes on the street after the season has begun, and he can play very well for you. And that's true. Like, I don't want to say that that's impossible, but that should not be one of the most foundational pieces of your roster, which is kind of where we're at. Other than him, I would say the only player on this screen is Sam Williams. They did offer. After they traded Micah away, they got really active and silly with lots of things. They gave extensions to Deron Bland, to Hunter Lipke, very soon after to Tyler Smith. That's a whole different discussion. And they talked about how they felt like they could give Sam Williams an extension. That did not work out. He hasn't really had the best career for the Cowboys, former 2nd-round pick out of Ole Miss. I think that's one of those, if the money's right, great. But I think they have Donovan Ezuraku, who they drafted in the 2nd round last year, and he's kind of the face of their pass rushing group now, obviously in a post-Micah world.
Okay, so then really what you're saying is no, especially in defense, because there's Murray, Wilson, Fowler, you mentioned Clowney, Turner, who didn't even play, and Sam Williams. And then on offense, you mentioned you got the 2 running backs, Pickens. It's time for Tolbert to head somewhere else, correct?
Yeah, Jalen Tolbert, really great effort. One of those guys who tries really hard, does all the right things, stays after practice type dude. But there's just it's run its time. Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, so what are they doing with Aubrey? I know he's restricted. So what are they going to try to sign him long term?
I would imagine. There was a report from ESPN that they're likely to place the 2nd-round tender on him if things come to that. I think. Obviously, a long-term deal would be preferable. Long-term deal is not this team's forte. I don't think that's not understood at this point in time. But that also to me smells like the one they'll get done after they tag George Pickens and say, like, look, we know you wanted, the George Pickens extension, but here's the Brandon Aubrey one. Look how great and mighty we are, type stuff.
So you think what's going to happen is they're going to try and sign Pickens long-term, or do you think they're just going right to the tag?
I think that I think they'd sign him today if he agreed to what they wanted him to agree to. But I think if you're George Pickens, you have every right to ask for everything, right? Why wouldn't you at this point? And I think that they're going to place. My point is, my prediction is maybe the best way to put it. I think that this will go to the tag. They will place it on him. They will say all the right things, or all of their things. They will call it a placeholder. They will say that they have every bit of interest in getting a long-term deal done with him. And then they'll also hedge that by saying if he ultimately walks next year, they could yield a comp pick and whatnot, which would be dumb. But here we are. And so I ultimately predict that he will get the franchise tag. Yes.
Yeah, I got to be honest, if there's a player out there that probably actually deserves it, it's him. Meaning that I don't trust, to give him a multi-year deal. And I would say this: if I'm another team, no way am I trusting it, because I look at it and I go, well, it's nice that it's working out for the Cowboys, but how do I know it's going to work out here?
Yeah.
Maybe it just worked out there, and that's the place where he needs to be. So, we're already seeing it again with AJ Brown. Some of these guys, you just can't count on them. And but he seems to have been the perfect model citizen with the Cowboys this year. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, he and CD both were, if you recall, disciplined prior to the Monday night game in Las Vegas. They sat out the first series because of a coach's decision. He angered people with, I would say maybe arguably, debatably checked out behavior when they got blasted in Detroit. But I mean, that was a week after having been the hero against Kansas City on Thanksgiving, and the week before been the hero against Philadelphia when CD kind of checked out. So did he have 17 games where everybody was satisfied with every single snap that he played? No. But I think he more than lived up to the expectation. And I've told you, I was against the trade. I did not. I took the cheese in terms of what was coming out of Pittsburgh. I did not buy it. I think that has aged wonderfully for Pickens. Even the fact that the Steelers moved on from Mike Tomlin, right? Like everything has just kind of gone to show that maybe he was not the issue there. And as against it as I was, the moment they made the trade, we went live on our YouTube channel. I said, okay, fine. I wouldn't have done this, but you have to extend him right now, because it's dumb to bet against yourself, which is exactly what they did. And no one obviously could have forecasted that CD was going to miss time, and that was going to help George inflate his statistical performance even more. But I mean, now if you sit down in a room to negotiate with him, he's got everything. I mean, he's got and they handed it to him. I mean, that's just the way they tend to do things.
Okay. So either way, it looks like Pickens will end up with the Cowboys in 2026. Okay. And then you think Javonte? I mean, on the outside looking in, all things considered, it was clearly his best season as a running back. He just did nothing in Denver. Another pretty high pick who needed a change of scenery. And it worked for him. But, again, he's a running back. And they are a dime a dozen at some point, unless you're a superstar talent, which he's not. So do you think that's what you kind of mentioned that before? You think it's, well, maybe we'll bring it back at a certain price. Maybe we won't.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, if he really likes where he's at and he's willing to take a little bit less, but if he, if I were his friend and he were to ask me, I'd say, dude, this might be the last big-ish contract that you get in the NFL. Like you should chase every dollar, because who knows what the next one's going to be for you. That's just the nature of the game, the nature of the position. And I don't think the Cowboys are going to be willing to pay that. That's why if he walks, I saw the other day, somebody said the Cowboys should sign Travis Etienne. Like there will be a Travis Etienne is my point. And they'll pair that dude with Jaden Blue, with Phil Maffa, and that'll be their room. If he ultimately walks, if somebody else decides he's worth it. Okay.
All right. Now, are there any players not on this list, players on the roster? Let me pop that up. The Ourlads roster that you think could get cut and become a free agent?
I think that Terrence Steele has probably played his last game for the Cowboys. That's been pretty obvious writing on the wall. I know that you and I had talked about this as well, but after the opening, or during the opening press conference at training camp, Jerry Jones, if you recall, openly doubted the extension that they had given Trayvon Diggs. He was at the time being asked about Micah talks, because those were ongoing at that moment. And he said, well, look at the deal we gave Trayvon, right? Like, don't we kind of want that one back? Which was an insane thing to say. But he did say it nonetheless. And he said the same thing about Terrence Steele. And so it's just all the money has always pointed to 2025 being the last season for Trayvon Diggs, and that wound up being true, obviously. And it has pointed the same thing for Terrence Steele. So I mentioned Tyler Smith. I know this wasn't your question, but the Cowboys, when they played the Chargers, which was in week 16, They were down Tyler Guyton. It gets very confusing. Even Terrence Steele has the same initials as all of them and whatnot. And you're talking about Tyron Smith having left recently, but Tyler Guyton had to miss that game. So Tyler Smith kicked out to left tackle, which he did, if you recall, his rookie year in 2022. Yes. And then he wanted to play guard, didn't want to kick out anymore. And they paid him, as noted, after the Micah trade and made him the highest paid guard in the NFL. And after the Chargers game, Brian Schottenheimer and Jerry Jones both said that they were going to consider Tyler Smith at left tackle in the future again, even after having come all this way at this point. And that naturally sparked, because they've lost all benefit of the doubt with the fan base, level of criticism from the perspective of, well, you only want to do this because you've paid him guard money. Now you want to get a value, get a bargain at tackle.
Yeah, right.
Which may or may not have been true.
Sure.
They did say in the postseason press conference that Tyler Smith is open to the idea of tackle, but they're going to keep him at guard. But the conventional theory is that, assuming they cut Terrence Steele, that Tyler Guyton could slide over to the right side where he played in college at Oklahoma and play right tackle, and then Tyler Smith would kick out to left tackle, as they sort of pre-showed us, and then just figure it out at left guard.
Interesting. Okay, so that really opens up a lot of possibilities when it comes to off-season needs and things of that nature.
Yeah, that will dictate obviously a lot of what they need. If they do, if they move one, they'll need a left tackle if they're going to keep Tyler Smith at left guard, or if they kick him out to tackle, it will increase their need at guard.
And at least they have options, so that's good. Okay, and is it the Steele thing more just a contractual thing? Because I mean, he's not a bad player, but is that all it is?
I think he's been trending downward from the moment they gave him the deal. And that's not to say he sucks or anything, but he's probably like the 20th best right tackle in the NFL. But he's not paid that way. And that's
so they don't want to, it's like, and do they think he wouldn't be happy backup kind of thing?
I don't think they want to pay him to be their backup. And you're getting deeper now into the Brian Schottenheimer era. He was a Mike McCarthy guy, and I know Mike's thing. I don't think people give Terrence Steele enough credit. I do tend to fight for him because he was an undrafted free agent in 2020. I mean, obviously a very difficult time to enter the NFL, and that was we said this at the time, which is why it's so fresh in my mind. Everyone remembers Mike McCarthy had no first round offensive lineman ever in Green Bay. Like, they just always made it work with everyone who was rotating through. And Terrence Steele was kind of that guy. At the time, Joe Philbin was the Cowboys offensive line coach. And obviously he has a history with Mike in Green Bay. And again, I think he was a really great example of what they were able to do. But at the end of the day, that was the peak of it all. And everything kind of has gone downhill ever since.
Yeah, it's like that's what you can say about the Niners nowadays. Right. I mean, even though we saw what it looks like without Trent Williams on the field a few weeks ago, and it's not going to be pretty, but still, I mean, that's what they do. They just they sign guys off the street. They draft guys late in the draft and plug them in. It's like, oh, we got one of the best offensive lines in football. It's the system. Right. So, which it is for the most part, but you do have to have at least one alpha male on that lineup, no question about it. And the Cowboys have some talent. Now it's just a matter of fact, Tyler Booker, as far as the draft class was concerned, how did it go? I mean, Booker headlined the class. He seemed to have a pretty good rookie season.
Yeah, I think he was solid. The Cowboys had developed this reputation of first-round offensive linemen being absolutely elite. They had that with Tyron and Travis Frederick and Zach Martin, and even Tyler Smith, I would say is in that realm now. But Tyler Guyton hasn't quite hit that, and Tyler Booker didn't have the same rookie year as, say, Zach Martin. And so that's just kind of become what you measure things against, as unfair as that is. I think he was an enormously good player. And if not for the warped perception or warped expectation, I think people would be singing his praises a lot more. And I think that nationally, the Cowboys kind of losing some shine has affected that. I think he was awesome as a rookie all season.
Was he unfortunately, Ravel with the injury. So and again, I know our guys here just absolutely love him. And if he could stay healthy, is there still a lot of hope that he can be, a real difference maker? And you mentioned Azaroku. And of course, we talked about how much I loved him and thought that was an awesome pickup in the second round. And he definitely showed parts of that as a rookie. Were those the only, really, Azaroku and Booker, were those the only two rookies that actually made an impact?
Yeah, because Jaden Blue, Phil Maffa never really saw the playing field. I mean, as far as draft picks are concerned, it was just kind of a real tough scene. Shamar James had a moment in the preseason where everybody thought like maybe this is really going to take, but other than that, it just, the Cowboys linebacker play was horrible, and that affected a lot of people. But I would say that Donovan was the most impressive rookie. Again, kind of a low bar to clear. But Savon Ravel is exciting. But I do think his not becoming a superstar right away has impacted people. I think, you look around right now and your average mock draft has Dallas taking Sonny Styles at 12 and Jermod McCoy or Avion Terrell at 20, the Packers pick. And I'll be honest, like I don't want them to take Jermod McCoy. I don't want a player coming back from injury. I mean, you can't bank on that right now. You're already in a sensitive spot in that kind of way. You just don't have the luxury to be able to do something like that the way another team would.
I know it's early in the process, but I've watched obviously I watched a lot of football, especially in the Big Ten. And because of this logo here, I know a lot about Ohio State. I'm not a big Sonny Styles guy. So I think he's overrated. And so if Cowboy fans actually think that might happen, I tell you to look elsewhere.
It does depend, obviously. You're right. Like, we're so early, we have no idea. And this week Dante Moore changed the calculus, right? Like things are going to happen in a lot of different directions. But given how things look, it seems like that might be one of the better outcomes. Is kind of the best way to. I mean, look, this team has no linebacker that you can feel great about right now. The one that you're banking on is a dude who's had several season-ending injuries in the last few years. So you need a really high floor right now. And I think at the very least, Sonny Styles delivers that.
Okay. So by the way, before I moved on to the rookie class, I asked you about cuts. You mentioned Steele. Is that it? And no other veteran players that make any sense that would actually matter if they were cut?
The only one that and I don't mean to be purely negative about this, but I flagged this when it happened and no one seemed to care. I think the people were just kind of mic'd out. But in the ESPN had a report after the Micah trade that talked about Kenny Clark. And obviously that has also changed because of the Quinnen Williams trade. But in talking about Kenny Clark, and I wrote about this at our site, the Cowboys went on record and saying that part of the reason they liked him and wanted him to be a part of it, and they went on and said they wanted to help the run and everything, all these dumb things, but they also said that they liked him because they could get out of his contract after the 2025 season. Okay. And so my argument was, how is this a plus that the dude you're acquiring in return, you're bragging about the fact that you can cut him next year? So, I mean, I would not say that that's impossible. And I felt that then. That was before they traded for Quinnen Williams. And so that changes the room is my point. And so I don't know that it's a given. I can try to find it right now. If I can remember. Let's see here, because the exact wording was very interesting. Man, if you can vamp for me, I know I can find it.
Yeah, matter of fact, while you do that, I'm going to show everybody what the linebacker positions and rankings currently look like at Ourlads. So let's see. They have again, this is a little old. I think this came out maybe a month ago. So you got CJ Allen from Georgia, Anthony Hill. Again, these have got asterisks, meaning they're underclassmen. So we have to see if they're going to declare yet. Arvell Reese, I know he's a big name now. A lot of people think he's a top 5 pick.
So I've got it now. If you'll allow
sure.
me. Okay, so this was a report. Again, there were a billion inside the Micah Parsons trade, posts that we were joking before we started about how busy things are now, and you think they wouldn't be. This was the worst 2 weeks of my life. I mean, it was awful, just because everything was about this and required a lot of attention. So this was from Jeremy Fowler and Don Van Natta Jr. at ESPN. So some incredibly plugged in people. And this is what they noted. They said, Clark, a staple of the Packers defense and centering the league, etc. Blah, blah, blah. A 2-year, $22 million deal for a high-level player was viewed as a win for Dallas that sees the 29-year-old Clark as a multi-year solution, and there would also be no dead money if the Cowboys chose to release him after the season. In one single sentence, it was hyped up how he could be viewed as a multi-year solution, but following the all-important comma, noted that if they wanted to cut him after this year, there's no dead money as a penalty.
So either way, it was like a really good add-on, I guess.
I mean, look, I'm not trying to be a cynic, but if you're going to trade away arguably the best pass rusher in the
Yeah,
NFL, like that is such a weird way to spin that. And I wrote that, and like most of our readers and people on social didn't feel the way I felt, and I still haven't really seen anyone that feels the way I feel about it. So I think that it's very possible that they cut Kenny Clark, which again would be very dumb given the narrative of everything. And to be clear, you also shouldn't hold on to him just because you got him in the Micah trade. You shouldn't be a sunk cost fallacy thing. But I found that very, very, very strange when it was initially reported.
How I mean, there was a lot. Matter of fact, I remember talking to my Green Bay guy last year, and he was telling me that Kenny Clark's game was disappearing, that he was not the player he once was. And I know he got off to maybe even a slow start this year, or the same play that had happened the year prior. So when he made the switch to Dallas, how did he play?
I think he had a good year. I think if he had been on the team all year long, I think people would feel very good about him. It's just it's hard to strip away how he got here and everything, sure, right? Like, and that's difficult for people. But I also think he was really professional about it and never tried to be anything more than who he is, which is admirable given the situation. But so I think he's a great locker room guy and somebody who you would want back. But again, I'll point back to that. Like they were already excited about the idea of cutting him, and it could be a matter of cutting him to re-sign him to a friendlier contract type thing. But that would feel pretty manipulative in my mind.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Again, that will tell us a lot about what the Cowboys will be looking for in the offseason. So next up, are there any developmental players, any younger players on the roster, first-year players, second-year players, any of the rookies that you think in the next year or two could be taking a bigger role? And I bring these up. I like to bring these up because anytime you look at rosters, a lot of times you just look at the starters, the veterans. Okay, where are the needs? But sometimes if you're not a, say, Cowboy fan, you don't know that there might be a young player that the Cowboys feel they're looking at as a potential starter that you're not the casual outside of Dallas fan doesn't realize. And so if you think, oh, I thought that spot was going to be perfect for them. Well, no, we got somebody else in mind. So the Cowboys have any of those young players, anybody that could take a spot or two based on this roster?
It's really difficult to be underrated as a Cowboy for obvious reasons.
That's true.
But I think people are sort of hip to him now, but Ryan Flanoy is pronounced Flanoy. Came on obviously as the season wore on and kind of really took the wide receiver 3 job from Jalen Tolbert. And I think that, if George Pickens is elsewhere, that would certainly elevate, his role in the offense. But I think either way, even if Pickens is back, I think Ryan's going to have a big season. It kind of be, like I need to look at my dynasty league. Like that's the kind of place I think you need to pay attention to him, because Dak Prescott typically has a high level of chemistry with guys like that. And those are the dudes he works a lot with in the offseason. And so he already sort of announced himself, which is why it feels strange to pick him. But I think he could have a really impressive 2026.
Yeah, and again, if Pickens returns and everybody's back there on offense, boy, if they could add a difference maker at running back, this could be one of the best offenses in football.
I mean, sign me up. I'm not opposed to that. It's just a matter of will they do it? That's what it's always been.
Okay, and injuries. So we know there was injuries. So which players that got banged up this year are expected to contribute next year?
There aren't any massive ones, right? There's not the like torn ACL guy or torn Achilles that you're waiting and going to be monitoring and how he's moving. And, he was at the Mavericks game and you find the photo on Instagram of him in a boot or something like that. Like, we've lived that life before and thankfully don't have that going on. If anything, I think, Dak Prescott isn't in that boat this offseason for the first time in a while. Savon Ravel is coming off of playing football. DeMarvion Overshown is coming back from playing football. So they're more ahead of things than they were at this time last year.
Okay. All right. So let's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did. As you scrolled, I remember Deron Bland did have foot surgery. So that's the only one they are kind of monitoring. But he had a foot ailment at training camp and got surgery on it. So that's the only kind of thing of this capacity they got going on.
But he's expected to be fine.
Yeah, no, one of those things that should be cleared up. I would doubt it. Maybe they hold him out in OTAs or something to be super duper safe, but nothing threatening training camp or anything like that in my mind.
Okay, let's talk about one of the big reasons you're here. Everybody wants to know about needs. So let's go into the Cowboys' top 5 needs this offseason. And we know that this is, going to be volatile. It's real early. It's only mid-January. We haven't even talked about, as we just got into before, tags and cuts and things of that nature. So, but as of right now, is there a clear number one need for the Cowboys?
I think that's debatable. I think there's like 5 number one needs. You know what I mean?
Are they all on defense?
Unless Javonte Williams walks or George Pickens leaves, right? Now, all of a sudden, you're having a little bit more of a serious conversation there, right? Like, I don't think you're panicking either way, but, maybe an interesting conversation at number 4, number 5. I think linebacker and safety are your in corner. I mean, secondary as a whole, which makes the fact that they have 2 first-round picks feel awesome, because you can come up with any combination of Sonny Styles and Avion Terrell, or Sonny Styles and Jermon McCoy if you want to go that route, or whatever. I mean, there are a number of amalgamations. But linebacker is probably number 1 on that list, just because if you do get the right guy, you do kind of 2 birds, 1 stone it, because you have DeMarvion Overshown there. You make him better at the same time.
Sure.
And in the secondary, I just don't know that that's a longer term project to me. I don't think even if you believe in Jermon McCoy or Avion Terrell, like, that person doesn't come in here and all of a sudden it's one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Like, it's going to take some time. Deron Bland, we have to see, even if he is fully healthy, he hasn't been the same player in a while. Does Savon Ravel take a step? That has a little bit more ifs to me, which is why but the fact that it has ifs in general put it ahead even still of the linebacker spot.
I will say this, though, and I was just taking a look the other day at some of the positions, and the corner position for the draft looks really strong.
Yeah.
So while you can say, like you said, a player that's been out and so forth, there's no reason to be pigeonholed. I mean, there are, I was taking a look at the Ourlads again. This might be a little bit old, like I said, but I think I was looking at their top 10, and all 10 guys to me are capable of being first round talents, depending on how things go during the offseason. So there's a lot of talent there at the corner spot.
The only thing I would add to that, and this isn't in any way running against what you just said, but for anyone who's unaware, the Cowboys do have multiple first-round draft picks, but they do not have a second-round pick because of the Quentin Williams trade, and they don't have a third-round pick because of the George Pickens trade.
So they might trade down one of those picks.
I mean, they're Cowboysing it up and saying they could package them to trade up. That would be wildly irresponsible.
Yes.
And yes, they are projected to receive some comp picks, which are near and dear to their heart. But cool, even if you picked up 3 5th-round picks, like that doesn't really help you as far as this is concerned, because I agree with you, right? Like, it does seem like, okay, we could double dip at linebacker. You could take a linebacker and an edge rusher, pick your combination again with picks 12 and 20, but you can't bypass corner, even as deep as it is, if you're not picking until the 4th round. You know what I'm saying? And that changes the calculus for them specifically.
So is linebacker, corner, safety an equal number 1, or does one of those positions definitely number 1?
I'd say linebacker's number 1.
Okay.
They also kind of need an alpha to get kind of super football cliche right now.
At linebacker,
I would say in general. And that's why, like, having that guy play linebacker is convenient. Like, it's really, classic and whatnot. But we talk so much about the Micah trade and whatnot. They also let DeMarcus Lawrence walk in free agency, and probably did so because they assumed everything would get worked out with Micah. And DeMarcus has played very well for Seattle, and rooting for him on Saturday. But that being said, he was kind of their leader. So in addition to replacing talent, they also still have yet to replace leadership, and call it what you want, culture, vibes, I don't care. But they are missing that because DeMarcus Lawrence left, and while he did not play on the defensive side of the ball, last season also saw Zach Martin retire. So they are just, kind of void of those dudes right now. So that's why, I mean, I don't know enough about Sonny Styles personally, but in a macro sense, like, give me the dude who played for one of the best teams in the country for the last few years, who won a national championship, who kind of fits that profile. You need that guy right now. Like, you don't have that guy that everyone flocks to at this point.
Well, I'll give you the guy who, now look, I don't know if he's going to last till 12 because the position is, the NFL, you talk about running backs not being valued. Safeties haven't been valued very often in the NFL for a while. If you're
talking Caleb Downs, then yeah, I mean, I love
the guy's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So And now I don't know what, again, you look last year, Starks lasted to almost the end. I mean, he lasted till nearly the second round.
Right.
And that kid was a top 15 talent. So now Downs is better, but I'm not going to be surprised if Downs, for whatever reason, lasts until 10 or 12. And if he's that close to the Cowboys, man, if he is, I'm sure you guys are going to get quite excited about the possibility of grabbing someone like him.
Yeah, I mean, and this also goes to I know everyone believes that Howie Roseman just like looks at Daniel Jeremiah's mock and drafts the guys or drafts all the Georgia players or whatever. But I mean, in a primitive way, there is, I don't want to say something to that, but it's like a thing that's worth saying out loud. Like, think about the two players who impacted the Cowboys, who they traded for before the season and during it, in George Pickens and Quinnen Williams. You're talking about somebody from Georgia and from Alabama. Right, like these are players who
Sure.
literally have done it at the highest possible level. And so again, applying that same general, it sounds stupid to call it logic even, but that's why you can totally sign me up for Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs. Like, it kind of goes back. It goes back to our defensive coordinator conversation. You're living in the middle of the Venn diagram that I want you to live in, and it may not work, but at least you're targeting that area, as opposed to, all due respect, Deron Bland went to Fresno State, right? Like, that's just a different thing. And every now and then you get those guys that, find their way and grind through, but the odds of success are higher if you're kind of, like we talked about, picking from where the very good stuff often tends to happen.
And then the other thing too is when you're bringing in a new defensive coordinator, a lot's going to depend on, I mean, who knows? It's possible that depending on where he comes from, hey, there just happens to be a free agent that was on his team that could really help be an extension for him on the defense. And he happens to be a good leader as well. Boom, that's a logical pick. I mean, a logical signing. But the other thing is, if there's not that player in free agency, then maybe that's what the defensive coordinator is going to be very vocal about. It's going to be, I need to be a big part of this draft. I need to be able to go in and target a guy that I think is going to really help me out, build and be successul and lead the defense that I'm going to have out there on the field. So
this feels situationally akin to when Dallas hired Dan Quinn, and we'll see who it will be. But they had just finished Mike McCarthy's first season, and they fired Mike Nolan after it. And again, so in this situation, Matt Eberflus is Mike Nolan. They brought in Dan Quinn, and they let Dan have a bunch. He got Keanu Neal and DeMonte Kazee from his Falcons days, and he brought over Dante Fowler, who he coached in Gainesville at the University of Florida. And then beyond that, the draft was also defensive heavy. They took Micah Parsons in the first round. They took Kelvin Joseph in the second round. They took Chauncey Golston, Nashawn Wright, and Osa Digizua with their 3 third-round picks. So their first 5 picks were all, I think they took Jabril Cox in the 4th round. So you're talking, I mean, my point is, like, it was all defense, and it was all exactly what the new guy wanted. So I agree with you entirely. They'll probably do that as well.
These guys, like Logan Wilson, first, I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I know a couple of years ago, solid linebacker, good cover linebacker, made plays. I loved him in college, and it looked like he was heading in the right direction. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if there was an injury or something. And then Leofau also is a guy that would have been maybe one of those players I was asking you about before, but you didn't mention him. So I'm assuming that just hasn't worked out. That's not a player that they can trust.
Yeah, so Logan, everyone likes to say he got benched by the Bengals, and they were obviously really bad, but I think it's pretty obvious they benched him because they were working on trading him. They didn't want to get hurt. And on top of that, when he landed in Dallas, Matt Eberflus wanted to, go out his way, and Logan Wilson wasn't a Matt Eberflus guy, so that's why he had a hard time getting on the field.
Okay.
Not that means Logan Wilson is amazing, but those are some of the politics of what happened. Maris Leofau, I think, has regressed. He had a really, really, really impressive rookie season, and just didn't live up to that this past year. Maybe he's a guy who turns it around, but it's just kind of hard to bet on right now heading into injury.
All right. But anyway, a couple of guys that definitely could turn things around with the new coaching staff for sure. All right. So we got linebacker, corner, safety, and I guess we can probably go in that order. Linebacker, corner, safety.
Yeah, sign me up.
Okay. Next, give me another need after we go with this back 7 group here.
I think, probably edge rusher, just because quantitatively they don't have enough. Even if you think the world of Donovan Ezuraku, as I know you do, he's one dude. I mean, they have to refill and restock the cupboard. They, saw DeMarcus Lawrence leaving free agency. They traded Micah Parsons away, and then they had the tragic passing of Marshawn Nealon, which is way more important than football. But just in speaking about the roster,
sure,
is obviously not someone that they have now. And so maybe they bring back Clowney. I mean, who knows what that looks like? But right now, the only guy who you can kind of set your watch by is Donovan Izraku.
Okay. And by the way, has Clowney been on a team for 2 years before? Since his first team?
maybe the Pan. Well, he was in Seattle for a moment after the trade. And then I think you're right. He's just kind of been a mercenary, but he's one of those mercenaries that like he hasn't, Darrelle Revis'd it up and found he hasn't won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like he's just been bouncing around.
Say Cowboys, Carolina, then Baltimore, then Cleveland.
I forgot about the Tennessee stint. Wow.
And then Tennessee for 2 years. So Cleveland 2 years, Tennessee 2 years, Seattle 2 years. Houston was his original team. So he's never been anywhere for 3 years. And he's now on his, he's on his 3rd team. If he leaves, he'll be on his 4th team in 4 years. So we'll see if he could stick for a 2nd year. Okay. And then give me a 5th need. And is there anything on offense at all?
I'll go running back just to, give it some love, or tackle. And a lot of that does also depend on the Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith dominoes and how those fall. That would change, obviously, how this is viewed.
By the way, you said to pronounce Ryan
Flanoy.
Flanoy.
Flanoy. Yeah, Flanoy.
Okay, why how they were doing it? Flournoy?
Flournoy, yeah. I mean, that's how there's an R in there, right? Like you read the R and you pronounce the R, but it's Flanoy.
Okay, yeah, just use FLA like Florida. Okay, got it. Mm-hmm. All right, so I think that just about wraps it up because, again, it's real early. Again, the Cowboys, as usual, do not have cap space, but nothing to worry about other than the fact that they're just not going to be able to go out there and spend and grab a lot of top-tier players. I mean, they're still going to be able to sign some guys, but they just don't have the type of cash that they can actually go on a spending spree. I
mean, and they can restructure, and they will when they feel ready and willing. Like with anything, nothing is impossible. Nothing can't be done. And so if they want to hide behind, this, that, or whatever and cry poor, my point is it's not like the Dodgers are signing everybody away from them. They have the same resources as everybody else here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's one thing you don't worry too much about. Okay, anyway, again, great job, RJ, as always. Thanks for doing this, and I look forward to, at least worst case scenario, talking to you after the draft and finding out how the offseason went for the Cowboys. In the meantime, you can check out the links in the description of this video, as I mentioned, and that's where you can find everything out about the Cowboys through RJ and blogging theboys.com. We will be back on Monday talking NFL with the Minnesota Vikings. So that's our next stop, 32 stop. I think we're doing 3 this week, if I think that's correct. Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and the Dallas Cowboys. Thanks for tuning in here to Proline TV, the Ourlads Football Network. We'll be talking a lot more about the NFL draft through Ourlads. You can be sure about that. And thanks for tuning in, RJ. Again, appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You got it.